All right, welcome in. Who's ready for another driverless car ride here in San Francisco while we talk about the 49ers? I don't want this thing to leave, so let's get in. I think I already unlocked it. I'm gonna go front seat too. Front seat's the way to go. Good, yes. Awesome. Remember, tradition is that it's Casper driving and will be talking to us as well. So let's take a seat. My legs are long. Give this a little bit more room. So this is how it works. You close the door. You tell your invisible driver that you're gonna put your bag in the back seat, as I did.
Heading to Dolphin Swimming and Boating Club.
Perfect.
Please make sure your seatbelt is fastened. For any questions, press the call support button to speak with a rider support agent.
Maybe I should put on my seatbelt. Maybe that would be smart. And then we could talk some 49ers and how they can essentially lock up the NFC West early, just like they did last week. That was a beep, told me that I need to buckle my seatbelt. Good. All right, we got 22 minutes as we leave the mission and head on over to the Dolphin Club. How's everybody doing? Got to go for a swim here in San Francisco. It's gonna be cold, but it is sunny, and we're here to talk about the 49ers and how they can take a big step toward clinching the West. They're 9-3. The Seahawks are 6-6. The 49ers will open up a huge 3-game lead. If Seattle loses and the 49ers win this week, which obviously would coincide with itself since those two teams are playing each other, it'd be a 4-game lead for the 49ers with, 4 games to play? So it'd be essentially clinched. It wouldn't be fully clinched. One thing the 49ers can do is clinch a playoff spot this week. If they win, and if either the Packers or the Vikings lose, the Packers are playing the New York Giants and the Vikings are playing the Raiders, both teams are on the road, then the 49ers will have clinched a playoff spot. Both the Packers and the Vikings are favorites in their game, in their respective games, but there is a chance that one of them does lose. Neither of those two teams is overpowering this year. Meanwhile, the 49ers are 10.5-point favorites over Seattle. That opened up as a 12.5-point line. A little too big, right? I think that the sharp betting money made sure that it wouldn't stay that large for the 49ers. So the 49ers, 10.5, that's still really big. And I think that this is going to be a big test of the 49ers' maturity, because you have so many different factors in this game that suggest that a letdown is possible. A, the 49ers are coming off their most emotional win of the season over the Philadelphia Eagles. B, the Seattle Seahawks are in a position of potential desperation in this game. They're coming off of the blowout loss to the 49ers, a tough loss to the Cowboys. All of a sudden, this is the team that's just kind of running on fumes with that 500 record. They've been exposed for not being as great as people were trying to say that they were, at least in the Seattle media a little bit earlier this year. So they're trouble for Seattle right now, but they're going to be desperate because of it. The 49ers don't have that much reason to be desperate because they're coming off and they're feeling great from a big win over Philadelphia. The 49ers also are going to be at a rest disadvantage in this game. Team that's at a rest disadvantage, that means that Seattle has played last on Thursday. The 49ers' most recent game was on Sunday. So a few extra days. We saw the rest disadvantage actually help the 49ers against the Eagles. They typically, rest advantage helped the 49ers against the Eagles. They've typically had rest disadvantages all season, and they're going to have another one here. So you look at the Seahawks and you look at the 49ers, and the fact that the 49ers blew the crap out of the Seahawks, 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago at this point, that's not good for potential motivational purposes. I think the 49ers are a lot better than the Seahawks, but when we talk about tests of maturity, the 49ers are going to be relying on their veterans to make, like Trent Williams, those guys, right? Big Trent, Nick Bosa on the back end, Tashawn Gibson. Those guys need to make sure that they get the 49ers heads on straight for this game to avoid a potential letdown. But if the 49ers do win, if they do hold serve on what is, I think, a massive point spread, right? 10.5 points against a division rival, especially a chief division rival like the Seahawks, well, then the 49ers will have a chance to wrap up a playoff spot. All it would take is a loss from the Minnesota Vikings or from the Green Bay Packers. So that's what's at stake this week. I think that the 49ers do have the maturity to be a team that you shouldn't doubt their ability to step up in a game like this and deliver, just because they do have that veteran presence. That being said, it happens to the best of them, and it is human nature to let off the gas pedal just a little bit, right? The 49ers, that was as big as regular season wins can be against the Philadelphia Eagles, and now they're going to have to try to replicate that effort, especially after the cross-country flight home. That also shouldn't be discounted against the Seattle Seahawks. So again, Minnesota loss, Green Bay loss. Minnesota's playing at Las Vegas. Green Bay is playing at the New York Giants. Plus a 49ers win means that the 49ers will be in the postseason for sure. They cannot clinch the NFC West this week, but they can get a whole lot closer. So it's still a really big game. I call it the Philadelphia sandwich, right? The 49ers, first they played the Seattle Seahawks on the road. Then they played the Philadelphia Eagles on the road. And now they play the Seahawks again at home. So it's Seattle, Philly, Seattle, the Philadelphia sandwich. When this schedule first came out, people were all talking about this stretch being the defining stretch of the 49ers season. Well, it looks like they're responding well to what people call the defining stretch of the season, and now they need to put a punctuation mark on that stretch against Seattle, Philly, and Seattle. All right, so toss in your questions. We're doing some driverless car stuff here. See, there's nobody in the driver's seat next to me. I'm being safe. I think the car is being safe. I got some snacks here and I have some water. I'm going swimming, so I need to make sure that I replenish myself with enough carbohydrates before we get into the cold San Francisco Bay. I should have taken my camera. One of these days I'm going to take my camera, and I'm talking about the underwater camera, and give you some nice footage from the bay. Maybe do a video from there. I did that earlier in the season when it was a little bit warmer. Now it's cold, but that doesn't stop the camera. The camera can take the cold, so we'll go from there. 49ers swept the entire NFC West last year, and I think that there is reason to believe they can do so again. A lot of you are saying watch out for the Rams, and I agree. The Rams are playing good football. They just took Cleveland to task, but that was at SoFi. And Cleveland has been a much better defense at home than on the road. And obviously they have their offensive struggles. But the Rams, I mean, when you look at the fact that they swept Seattle this year, they're right in the mix of things. And Arizona is the one team that I think is significantly weaker than the rest of the NFC West. But they just picked up a win on the road over Pittsburgh with Kyler Murray back. And the 49ers are going to see 3 division games here to close out the season. They have Seattle at home this week. Then they travel to Arizona, and the Cardinals look a whole lot different with Kyler Murray than they did with Josh Dobbs. It was actually a really good offense compared to what you might think with Josh Dobbs and James Conner both healthy. Dobbs is now in Minnesota, and this Arizona team has Conner back from his injury and Kyler Murray back as quarterback. It's still a terrible Cardinals defense, so the 49ers will be heavily favored. And then after that, the final game of the season, the Week 18 game at Levi's, is the Rams. In between all of that, you've got Baltimore and Washington. Baltimore, a top 5 team on offense and defense at Levi's Stadium Christmas Day. Washington on the road New Year's Eve. So the 49ers schedule is very interesting the rest of the way, and part of that interesting schedule is 3 games against NFC West opponents. You guys want to watch the turn from the car? I think you do. Here comes the turn. I love the turns. I mean, we're in some pretty thick traffic here. We're going to be moving up Van Ness, past Market, This thing's going to take me essentially across town all the way to the water on the north side here. I love taking these rides up to the Dolphin Club now because I could talk to you on the way. It's the fun way to do it. After a 49ers home game, maybe we could do a nighttime live where I take this up to, from the car, where I take this up to Sam's Burgers or something. I'll drive back to San Francisco, then go get a burger, and we could discuss the happenings of the game. There's plenty to discuss on the front of the 49ers beating Philadelphia. And then on the front of the 49ers, shuffling around some of the roster, they signed Logan Ryan, the safety, according to Ian Rappaport. They've waived Ty Davis-Price, the running back. They may bring Ty Davis-Price back to the practice squad, but he has to clear waivers first. So the 49ers will have some injury maneuverings tomorrow as well. Today's the day off. Today's the day that I do not have to head in to the team facility. So I'm just here having some fun up in the city, getting my body right after the long flight home from Philadelphia. Chuck asks, do Trent and Nick still review with each other after games? Yes, right after games. I wrote about that last year. That was a fun article. Nick Bosa will pull up a chair right at Trent Williams' locker following games, and they will chop it up, and it's one of the cooler happenings in a 49ers locker room that has a lot of interesting stuff going on. So this time we're taking a different route. We're going to go right behind City Hall instead of up Franklin. I don't know why it's doing this. I think Franklin is always a better bet, but not always. Actually, sometimes when you're going north-south in San Francisco, Franklin's the better bet. Sometimes Van Ness is the better bet. Today, our driverless ride determined that Van Ness was the better bet. These guys, by the way, right here, these guys, they lost yesterday. C.J. Beathard had to come in for Trevor Lawrence, who has a high ankle sprain. And I thought Beathard played well, but they got hosed by that holding call that probably would have put them in position to finish that game. Unfortunate for Jacksonville. Beathard, though, as we look at San Francisco City Hall right now, City Hall, Opera House, Symphony, everything here in the Civic Center. But let's take a look. We're going to drive by. This used to be the state capital of California, this dome. The dome on San Francisco City Hall is taller than the dome on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Fun little fact for you. And at some point, they're going to light up City Hall in red and gold at night. Obviously, it's still daytime here in San Francisco, but just wanted to give you a look at it. All right, we could flip this sucker back around. We can talk here. Where was I? What was the discussion about? Normally I have good memory with this kind of stuff, but I totally blanked out. I was talking about the schedule. How big will the Baltimore game be for the playoffs? Well, the 49ers might need to win it to get the 1 seed. This weekend is going to be fascinating because the 49ers play the Seahawks as big favorites, but with a chance to really solidify their massive lead in the NFC West, and a chance potentially for the 49ers to clinch a playoff berth. But on top of that, after that game, the Cowboys are 3.5-point favorites against the Philadelphia Eagles. So if Dallas beats Philadelphia and the 49ers win, the 49ers will leave this weekend, they'll leave this Sunday as the number 1 team in the NFC standings. So, I mean, big opportunity potentially here for the 49ers. In fact, all that has to happen is that these two games have to play out according to their current lines. The 49ers favored by 10.5 over Seattle, and Dallas favored by 3.5 over the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think Philly is staggering after playing the 49ers. I mean, they got the crap beaten out of them physically last week. Dallas is going to have some extra rest, right? Dallas played that that Thursday game against Seattle. So it's an opportunity for sure for the 49ers. That's going to be the Sunday night game, the Cowboys and the Eagles. So the 49ers can wrap up their game against the Seahawks, and if they win, then they'll really enjoy watching Dallas try to beat Philadelphia. Now, the thing is that Dallas is also a threat for the number 1 seed. So if they do win, the 49ers still have to continue winning, and that will involve the game against Baltimore. There are only 2 teams in the entire NFL that have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense by the advanced efficiency metrics. And that is the 49ers, and that is the Ravens. Those are the two teams, and they're set to square off on Christmas Day at Levi Stadium. Somebody reminded me that I was talking about Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. And yes, I was. I mean, those two guys, they meet at Trent's locker after every game. Two powerhouses, right? It just goes to show you that this 49ers locker room has got such healthy cohesion and culture. After the game against the Eagles in the locker room, Nick Bosa was walking around. He was giving Kalia Davis a hug. He was giving Javon Kinlaw a hug. Those are guys that aren't as recognized on this 49ers team because they're not the biggest names, but they had some of the big plays, and so many guys had big plays. But that's the point. This is a team. It's not just one or two guys making big plays. It's 20 guys making big plays. And Nick Bosa, who's one of the superstars, is there to acknowledge the guys who don't get as much love right after the game. Bosa is paying attention. It's all part of a really healthy locker room culture that they have. It's hilarious to me that some people were saying that Nick Bosa was going to be bad for the locker room back when the 49ers drafted him. He's probably the one of the most revered players in that locker room. Football's a meritocracy. Football's a man's sport. It's not something where, the kind of drama that I think the media likes to push is going to run the day in a healthy locker room. And the 49ers unquestionably have a healthy locker room with Nick Bosa and Trent Williams at the center of it. So toss in your questions. I'm about 10 minutes from arrival at the Dolphin Club here in San Francisco. We're rolling up Van Ness, which has its bus rapid transit lanes now, right in the middle. It's the new addition to Van Ness. We're rolling, and we're having a good time. We're at Sutter and Van Ness. There's the bus. Staying healthy. I think if the 49ers stay healthy, they will win the Super Bowl. I think at this point, their biggest challenger is in the AFC. It's the Ravens. You've got to look out for the Miami Dolphins, who have seen their defense improve significantly over the course of this season. But the 49ers are still a cut above both of those teams when you combine their efficiency offensively and defensively. Brock Purdy is the leader to be the MVP. And I've been saying it, this is just a response to a comment. I'll take credit. I've been saying it since early in the season, since week 4. I've been ridiculed for it wrongly by people who don't know as much about the game as I do. Just have to put it that way. At this point, anybody who tries to denigrate what Brock Purdy has done, you just have to go out and say they don't know football. And not to sound arrogant or anything, but at some point, it is journalistic dishonesty to try to denigrate the top of the line number one metrics that Brock Purdy is putting up across the board. You just can't credibly do so. And some people are still trying to do so. And at some point they have to be called out for it because the truth is what matters, right? And the truth with Brock Purdy is just screaming in everybody's face. It couldn't be more obvious that he's an elite quarterback, that he should be the MVP leader because quarterback is the most important position on the football field. In fact, if things play out according to what's most likely, at this point, Brock Purdy will be the MVP and Christian McCaffrey is going to be the offensive player of the year. And the evidence could not be any clearer based on what we saw in Philadelphia. Last year against the Eagles without a healthy Brock Purdy, the 49ers really, really struggled. They weren't able to do anything. This year, against the Philadelphia Eagles, with a healthy Brock Purdy, the 49ers dominated them. That is, in a nutshell, the definition of a valuable player. And if you look at all the numbers and all the tape, Brock Purdy has been the most valuable player in the entire National Football League. That is the definition of the award. Look at this guy. Look at Casper here changing lanes, making sure that we're passing all this slow-moving traffic in the left lane. I love it. Now, unfortunately, everything is coming to a standstill in front of us, but we're almost there. That's the good news. 7 minutes for our arrival. We'll get to swim under some sunshine. That was the goal. Get in the water, purge some of this fat from the Philly cheesesteaks out of me. I mean, I was eating well in Philly, but they don't eat healthy there, that's for sure. We're about to cross Lombard Street, just a couple more blocks. Good times here on Tuesday afternoon in San Francisco. Gio Kane says if the 49ers get to and win the Super Bowl, he wants Brock Purdy to win the MVP. But the MVP is a regular season award, so it's going to be determined and voted on before the end of the regular season. What happens in the postseason is not going to change it. I'll tell you what, the 49ers scored on 6 straight possessions. The last time they did that was in 1992. In 1992, Steve Young won the MVP. The last time that happened in the NFL, as we go under Lombard Street, the Black Magic Voodoo Lounge. That is the Saints bar, the New Orleans bar in San Francisco. Anyway, the last time it happened in the actual NFL, Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens did it in 2019. And Lamar Jackson won the MVP last year. So scoring a touchdown on 6 straight possessions, being the quarterback that leads that's something that MVPs do. And Brock Purdy needs to get some love for that. Look, we're going up Russian Hill. Isn't San Francisco beautiful? It's also steep. I mean, this street that we're on right now, this is Chestnut. It gets so steep on Russian Hill that it turns into steps ahead of us. You can't drive up those. So for that reason, we will be turning left onto Polk. And then ahead of us, we see San Francisco Bay. That's where I'm going to be swimming here in just a few minutes. Going to go by Galileo High School again. Have to stop at Francisco, though. Nice full stop. You know, they call the California roll, the California rolling stop, the no cop, no stop. But I don't think these driverless cars subscribe to that. I think these driverless cars actually stop. They don't roll it. Much to the dismay of some riders, I'm sure. Some riders might be in a hurry. They may want that rolling stop. Not this guy, though. Please keep your hands off the wheel. The Waymo driver is in control at all times. You're not supposed to turn your wheel. All right, so I am 4 minutes away. Any more questions? I know that some of the questions I just don't see in time because they're just scrolling across the screen here. Smash that like button. I know you're supposed to do that. Somebody asked what my career story is. I started off covering Stanford football under Jim Harbaugh. Moved to ESPN, covered Christian McCaffrey in the Pac-12 when he was at Stanford. Started covering the 49ers in 2017, which happened to be the first year that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan came aboard. That wasn't for ESPN. I've been with The Athletic since 2017. I've always wanted to announce football games, play-by-play, still a dream of mine. Still hope I could do some play-by-play, but pretty damn happy doing what I'm doing right now, covering a very fun 49ers team in a very fun city. There's Alcatraz. Alcatraz without a driver. And I'm going to be swimming in that water. Not all the way out to Alcatraz today, though. Going to have to take it a little bit easier than that. We're going to go right by the Buena Vista Cafe right now, which is the first place to sell Irish coffees. The Irish coffee invented at the airport in Shannon, Ireland. And then the bartender who made it for the San Francisco Chronicle writer who wanted it called it the Irish coffee. Stanton Delaplane was the writer who started this place, the Buena Vista, which unfortunately, these tents outside, it's not very sightly. They should take these out at some point. It's kind of ridiculous because I can't see the place now. I have to look at this hideous architecture of this temporary tent. So instead, we could look at the cable car. But anyway, Stanton Delaplane was the San Francisco Chronicle writer who invented that Irish coffee, or the bartender did over in Shannon, Ireland at the airport. And he hired over the bartender to come over from Ireland and work at the Buena Vista, which we're about to pass right now. There it is, the Buena Vista. It's the original spot for Irish coffees. Cable cars. We're having some fun in the city. No Irish coffee for me today. I had a normal coffee. We're not going to be drinking today, though. Oh, look, Transamerica Pyramid. And now we have hit Fisherman's Wharf. We're about to go by In-N-Out Burger. Every time the driverless car takes us by In-N-Out Burger, I have to show you In-N-Out Burger.
Almost there.
It's the one In-N-Out in the entire system that doesn't have a drive-through. They had to make a deal with the city of San Francisco. You can't build a new chain with a drive-through in the city. But In-N-Out really wanted to be in San Francisco, in Fisherman's Wharf. It's one of the busiest stores in the system. All the tourists like to have their fix of In-N-Out burgers, so they made it happen without the drive-through. And now we will pull up to the Dolphin Club. Finally made it to Aquatic Park. Took a little bit of a roundabout way there, but at least we can make the live a little bit longer. The old cannery building, which is now the Argonaut Hotel. I did the Rocky video. I was at the Rocky Steps. I have a whole video from the Rocky Steps yesterday. What are you talking about? Somebody saying I didn't do it? I absolutely did a Rocky video yesterday in Philadelphia. You can check it out. All right, the car has dropped me off. We have made it to the Dolphin Club. So we're pulled over. I'm here. Thank you to Casper. Drove me all the way across San Francisco. Been a fun live. We will talk to everybody very soon. Go check out that Rocky video. Catch up on the content that you've obviously been missing. We'll talk to you in a bit.